list of names sitting next to him on the one page is okay. There were a lot of people.
Should we call the district person up here so we can stop?
Hey, Mike, you've already been elected. You didn't just said that.
Good.
No, that may be a question.
Magic, just about.
You know, I shall everything.
Gotta go by this box.
I'll sit there, but I need to.
Appreciate
A little bit past that now.
Yeah.
I can't do
Yes, I did.
Oh, yeah, Grace.
Good morning, everyone. It's 9:30. This is a special work session that we called for the Seneca County Board of Commissioners. Like our regular sessions, we are recording, this session's being recorded. Cameras are up there, up this way to get on camera. So if we get to the point where you want to make remarks, you'll please state your name, and if you have an affiliation of anything particular, clearly, that would be helpful so that our recording does pick that up. We'll get started here with discussions. We listed on the agenda to have the work session to discuss the Justice Center. If we are done prior to 10, we'll recess because we will not start our regular board session until 10 a.m. as our advertised regular time for that. If we're not done, we will cut it off so that we can start our regular session at 10 a.m. So we'll just begin, and again, no action items are taken in work sessions, but it is a public meeting. So we wanted to discuss, we wanted to call this meeting because it's the first opportunity, the three of us together, to kind of discuss the outcome of meeting that we had with City Council on Thursday at the Educational Service Center, Thursday evening. So we'll open it up with that being the point of discussion. So whoever wants to begin, I know I greatly appreciate the two consulting groups, both Burgess and Nyepel and Gosman Group and Company, being there to answer the questions. Felt that we got a lot of our questions answered. I think the biggest surprise, to put it out there, is the proposal that was presented by the mayor at the end of the last 10 minutes of the meeting. So I think we probably want to discuss that a little bit amongst ourselves. There's been various emails and whatnot going around from people coming into us, as well as all the news reporting of that. I think one big thing is that proposal had us at a dollar figure alone, aside from other things, had us at a dollar figure higher than what we were looking at prior. It had us for the whole 8.5 that the Burgess and Nyepel study had a Justice Center built on Courthouse Square at for the total. It had that as being all ours, and prior that was a shared expense.
Well, let me, if I may,
Yes.
begin by saying that there are a number of people who have become vested in this courthouse discussion. I have spoken with people whose first question is, do we really need it? So we need to answer that question. I have spoken with people who said, why don't you use one of the existing county properties and put the courthouses there rather than build a new property. I've spoken with people who are passionate about the East Tower, and I've spoken to people who believe that the best decision is the courthouse square. So I want to acknowledge the fact that there are a number of points of view regarding this project, and that we have discussed those points of view with as many people as we could have in this period of time. But, and I have also said that Aaron's proposal, the mayor's proposal, is kind of a non-proposal because it does not have the endorsement, as far as I know, of the city council, and I would think that this wouldn't come from an individual, but it would come from the council if this were a true proposal. So I will couch it by saying I'm not sure how seriously we can take this without any type of approval, but I do think we need to discuss the points. And to your point, Holly, earlier, from everything that I've read and everything that I've been looking at, the county's commitment on this project was someplace in the range of 75% of the 8.5 million, or about 6.387 million. Is that what my fellow commissioners understand?
Yes, yeah. I was involved with the process from the beginning 2 years ago when the Burgess and Nyepel study was being conducted, along with input from the judges. We've had some city council members that, I believe at the time you were on city council, weren't you, Jim?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we had the mayor involved with that, and there was lengthy discussion on the size of the Justice Center and the true working understanding of the concept of a joint justice center with the city and county coming together. And there was lengthy, I may add, heated discussion on the size of the facility and the cost, and what was affordable, what I felt was affordable by the county, and what the mayor thought was affordable by the city. And again, that was the $8.5 million total project with some contingencies, and we have to realize is some of the contingencies that are in there, or part of that 8.5 had to do with roughly about $250,000 to $300,000 for renovating the annex, making some adjustments to make that accessible to the probate court. And that's something that, again, it was kind of an add-on that we really could take that out of the project, because what we're doing is we're moving common police court out of there and putting probate court in there. So it's a courtroom to a courtroom. So those are some figures that were kind of fluff figures that we could actually take out of that.
Well, I realize that there are some contingencies here. We're talking about, at this point at least, basic numbers on the original basic proposals. And that was that the Gossman Group talked about 11.6 million for the East Tower site, and Burgess and I will talked about $8.5 million in round figures for the site on the courthouse square.
That
so
is
that
correct.
difference is approximately $3.1 million. If you add the contingencies to both, the difference becomes $3.7 million or thereabouts. But my question is, we originally had agreed to the $6.3 million, and this proposal talks, the number one point, talks about the county agreeing to $8.5 million. Is that where we're at?
Yeah, and yes, absolutely. And that was never discussed in advance and never agreed to. Again, I was kind of dumbfounded with the process there, because again, going back into the heated discussion we had over cost, and that all of a sudden for that proposal to come forth was substantially higher than anything we talked about.
And when it comes to construction costs, I'm not going to purport to have any knowledge about construction, but we have had a number of comments from the public about items 3 and 4 in the proposal, and that, just to remind everyone, said that the city-led coalition would cover any costs above $180 a square foot for the renovation, and that the county then would cover any new construction costs beyond $210 a square foot. This again is part of Mayor Monson proposal. The problem that I have with that, after considering it, is how do you determine which costs are renovation costs and which costs are new construction costs? If you have a HVAC system, for example, that does the entire building, and there are some increased costs because of the old structure, how do you justify that? Is that more of the 180, or is that part of the 210? When you talk about putting all the mechanicals in this new combined structure, how do you break that stuff out? And I would suggest that it would be difficult, if not near impossible, to determine which of those costs are the overrun, or which part of that building is causing the increase. You guys have any thoughts about that?
I agree absolutely wholeheartedly
It
with
could be very
that.
difficult to figure it
You know,
out.
and then for us to sell the courthouse square for $1, I like to buy your house for $1, because I think I could maybe make it look nicer than you can. I don't understand that proposal from the very beginning. You know, I feel really uncomfortable and frankly insulted by the fact that the city would suggest to us, or that Mayor Moss at this point would suggest to us, that we sell what could be determined as the most valuable piece of property in Tiffin for $1. To me, that is insulting. But I'd sure like to get your thoughts about that.
Just to elaborate further, another part of the mayor's proposal was that, you know, that to be able to take care of the tax credits and so forth, that private investment, private individuals would own it and lease it back to the county. I have a problem with to maintain the integrity of our judicial system, to have any property that is housing the court to be owned by a private individual. I mean, we have the, in my mind, the best judicial system in this country, here in Seneca County, that are absolutely unbiased and impartial. And I could see some potential conflicts there that I don't believe we can ever go down that path.
Well, please answer my question about selling the property for a buck. Commissioner Stacy, what do you think about that?
Well, quite frankly, I wanted to mutter under my breath at the meeting, it's not for sale, because I don't feel that it was for sale. And I don't think that if we ended up the other way, that we still own Courthouse Square. We have a significant building on Courthouse Square today, and not looking at it, putting a price tag on it, because I don't view it as being for sale. It belongs to the county, and I think it should stay with the county. So that's my opinion on that. I know one thing that I think I shared, that I know in some of the questions I asked in the Gosman group on Thursday, I really have concerns with the juvenile part of our justice system at the East Tower. And I know it was just conceptual, as I said, posed in my question on Thursday, in that design and the layout. But again, knowing where the price tag is right now, or projected to be, don't know how you would make that what I think would flow a lot better at not a higher cost. So that part extremely bothers me. We have an annex building that was built for the purposes of providing our juvenile probate justice services. And you know, that combined with something over here, obviously they are separate buildings, that's what that building was designed for. I have trouble seeing that we're going to meet the needs of juvenile probate court in the East Tower for years to come for the county.
Yeah, the other, again, the things that we're struggling with, is it the commissioner's understanding that there is indeed at this point in time a $3.7 million difference? Was that established at the Thursday's meeting?
Yes, I think you asked that question.
Well, I just want to make
Yeah.
sure everybody feels the same about that. Now, what do you feel about the probability, or what do you think about the items that we're talking about as far as filling the gap? I mean, they were talking about 1.514, I think, story tax credit, and the possibility of someplace between 600,000 and $1.2 million coming from economic development, although, that was stated to be kind of on the back of a napkin. I'm not sure what that means. And any other amounts. Feel comfortable with that? Do you have any questions about that?
Well, the historic tax credit comes with the private ownership. I got the same concern Commissioner Zoller just shared a little while ago, is about the ownership of the building. I realized within 5 it would become ours by that proposal, but I have that concern for the 5 years. The other money, I'm not sure is that real money that we can bank on? I mean, it's probable, it's a chance, but there's no guarantee on that. I have trouble putting the county in any position where there's a risk to that dollar value, and moving forward on getting to the solution that we need to have for our justice center, or justice system.
Well, the statement was made somewhere during the course of the conversation that if the historic grant came through, it would only be a $2.2 million difference. And my response to that has been and always is, I don't know where everybody else comes from, but only and $2.2 million don't belong in the same sentence.
Good point. I mean, we're throwing around millions of dollars like it's nothing. This is taxpayers' money. This is the primary responsibility of commissioners, to be a good steward of taxpayers' money.
And also, one of our primary responsibilities is to make certain that the court system is adequate and that the facilities are adequate for the judges. We've kicked this can down the road a little bit here because we've had them in separate buildings. We all know that Judge Meyer's situation is just short of atrocious when it comes to handicap accessibility and security. I mean, I've been in that building a number of times, and attorneys are in the hallway near the security area talking to their clients because there's nowhere else to speak, and it's just very, very uncomfortable in that building.
And I think I don't know when it came up towards the end of that meeting as well, about possibility of continuing to use the annex for Justice Center for the juvenile probate and just cut cost over there. Then I think that throws out the window of the cost savings we're looking for and the idea of a center, and at least to get our county courts together. So I don't like that option at all. That's just my opinion, but that was raised, I don't know if it, where that,
Yeah.
somebody mentioned that, I don't remember who mentioned it, if it was Mr. Calnell, if it was the
Yeah.
mayor, but somebody mentioned that.
Yeah, a few people spoke with me
Yeah.
about that as well. What about the, you know, the one, and again, I gotta give credit to some of this too, these aren't all my ideas, or certainly because of conversation with the public. Well, I don't wanna reveal anybody's name, because I told them I wouldn't. But the question came up as to spurring economic activity in downtown Tiffin. And, you know, the conversation was, if that were left as green space, that there would be more activity around that area, and therefore it'd be better for the retail outlets in Tiffin. But the question came to me is, wouldn't activity be enhanced to a higher level if there were a building there in which, first of all, 57 people were employed, and hundreds of people literally come in and out of that building every day? Wouldn't that be more of an economic incentive to invest in downtown Tiffin than having a space in which you might have an activity once or twice a week? Any thoughts about that?
I think that makes sense. I mean, it is, I mean, it's an active Justice Center. I'm sure there's various people that would tell us that. It's a very active place on a daily basis, Monday to Friday. And like I said, other activities will go on regardless in downtown Tiffin that bring in the other people, but they're not there Monday to Friday. You know. 52 weekday, weeks a year.
I think it needs to also just be aired that, I believe my fellow commissioners, I mean, if there is some way to save this grand old structure of the East Tower, you know, certainly my preference is always, in coming from a business world, is for private investment to develop that, to be a taxpayer, not a tax burden. You know, that's always the desire. I mean, I don't know anything government can do better than what private business can do.
Yeah, this Commissioner Zoller, is, at least from my chair, is not a referendum on the East Tower. You know, again, as I stated in the beginning remarks, there are a number of people who have a number of different opinions about that, and I appreciate the fact that they do. But the fact of the matter is that we have to make the decision that is in the best interest of the people that that elected us. And, you know, that at this point in time, from a fiscal standpoint, I'm having a very difficult time allowing the county checkbook to be open to any possible overages. And, I mean, we start out with 3.7 million, and I know that there's been proposals to fill the gap, but then how about the additional gap? As a result of this, unfortunately, my emails were published, it's all public knowledge now, but the first question I asked was that if the tax credits don't come through, historic tax credits, if economic development folks aren't able to come up with 600 to $1.2 million, and if we don't get a check from a private citizen for $500,000, who's responsible for that money? Is the city willing to fill that gap? I did not receive a response on that question, but I think that is paramount to making this decision as to who's going to do that. I'm not going to sit here as the fiscal officer of this county and say that, you know, if the money doesn't come through, then we're just going to go ahead and write a check.
Yeah, I'd agree. That's not a risk that, that we can take. We've got to know our costs, to get them figured out, and know what we can handle, and I think that gets our price tag way out of our reach. It's just not, it's not comprehensible. I mean, we only can bond so much money, we only can, you know, there's certain things that we can do, we can't bank on those things. I'm just not comfortable with that.
I think that we've covered all the points of the mayor's proposal.
Anything else?
I would agree with that. And again, we have to realize that the proposal was not even approved by city council. So the proposal is really a non-proposal. You and it continues to resonate with me. I mean, that, I remember the conversation we had with the Burgess and Nyepel group, and we talked about, delaying the project, and every year we delay it, we're adding 5% of the cost of the project. We all can appreciate that interest rates right now are at an all-time low. All indications from my business career, I'm getting all sorts of reports that come early summer, interest rates are gonna start jacking up. They're gonna start skyrocketing. I would like to be able to take advantage of that from the county standpoint at the lower interest rates and to make decisions that can be in the best interest of the county long-term and take advantage of doing it sooner than later.
Well, I mean, that's a great point, Fred. If we were to finance $6 million, let's say on this project after people put their money in, I'm not sure what that bond would be, but let's say it's $6 million, and interest rates would increase by 2% over the next 12 months, which is a real possibility. We're talking about an additional $120,000 a year in debt service. That's a significant number over a bonding period. They could not increase at all, they could increase by 4%, or they could increase by 2%. But, I had a conversation in a meeting with the Federal Reserve Chairman of Atlanta within the last week. And he's a voting member of the FOMC, the Federal Open Market Committee. And they really believe that as soon as they feel comfortable that the rate of inflation is at 2%, core inflation taken out to energy and food, that once that begins to be consistently at 2%, that interest rates will begin to rise, and it's getting close to that comfort number at this point from what he had stated. And if that's indeed the case, then it could happen very easily in the fourth quarter of this year and then into 2016. The longer we delay, the more likely, we all know that interest rates aren't going to go down, let's just say that. And the longer we delay, the more likely it would be for an increase.
If that 2% equates to 100 and some thousand a year, and we're talking about debt reduction in the 350, 400,000 range, so there's a considerable effect that has on the stakeholders' obligation, yearly obligation of this process. I mean, that's a major. Again, if you got 350,000 of debt reduction and now by interest rates going up, you're adding another 125 to it. That's a major. That's a major.
Yeah.
There was also some comments or questions, I don't know if it was during the session, but I know I received from some of the media folks afterwards was, if we were at the East Tower, what happens to the annex? And obviously we repurpose that building, but that comes with a cost too, because it is obviously set up for some courtrooms that if we weren't using them for the justice services, so.
Yeah, I mean, we've got.
That would probably not be inexpensive. The other thing I just want to mention, because Stacy Wilson and I talked about this a week ago or better, and she reached out to MKC before any of us were sitting on this board. There was a design done, and I was just kind of asking some questions about that, and she actually reached out to them and asked them the question, if we were looking back at that design, because that was already paid for by the county, for, what was that, 4 million paid? No.
Oh, no,
400, yeah, I remember the numbers, it's something, yeah.
Mrs. Decimal Point by that.
Yeah, whatever.
Close.
We were talking about millions. But they indicated that, maybe next, little to no additional cost to update that to whatever needs, I don't know how many floors that was, I don't know a lot of factors about it. But when we look, at spending and being prudent with the taxpayers' money, we've got something we've already paid for that if, that's to our favor on Courthouse Square.
Yeah.
We could just revise that, those cost analysis, those cost estimates.
Yeah, they said they would update that cost analysis. There was 3 different ones, I think 8,500 square foot of floor, 11,500 a square foot per floor. There was different
There was
ones
a
that
couple.
they were looking at the time, so it'd just be
I've got the
bringing
numbers
those
on
up
my
to
desk
current.
ready. I'll give you a copy of
And
it.
the total square foot of that rendering was 44,000 square feet?
depending on which project, it was 8,500 a square foot, and that was for 3 floors? 3 floors, I think.
8,500 per floor.
Per floor, yeah.
Three floors, okay.
Yep. And, so they said they would update that for us.
I mean, I just don't want to lose sight of that, because
Right.
again, that's an
Yeah.
expense that's already been paid by the
Yeah.
county.
Sure.
Whatever year that was, but,
2008.
okay.
And then they did one proposal for the 8,500 square foot per floor, grand total 25,500 square feet. Brought it to about 5.6, and then 11,000 square feet, which would be 33,000 square foot building, is about 6.6. And they said they could update these numbers for us, but I didn't want to do that without,
We need a total of 54,000 square feet
Yeah.
for a joint justice center, and we've got 18,000 thereabouts. And the east tower is, depending on whether they use the basement or not, or the attic, is anywhere between 18,000 and 22,000.
Yeah. Anything else that, do you want to take some comments from others, or?
Sure, yeah, sure.
We've got, about 5 minutes before we would want to wrap up the work session, so we can appropriately call our regular session to order at 10 o'clock. So at this time, if anyone wishes to make some remarks, ask some questions, it is a work session. If you'll just, like I said, stand and loudly state your name so that we get you on our recording. I wish we would come up close and we'll visually know who's speaking on the camera. Anybody have any comments or anything for us? Oh, right here, yes.
I came in a little bit late, so I regret that I didn't hear what was discussed in the beginning. But
Please-
from
please
the.
state- please state your name for the
I apologize.
recording.
Kimberly Grode, I live in Bloom Township. It seems like a pretty quick turnaround from the end of Thursday's meeting to what I'm hearing today. And one thing that bothers me, Mr. Zoller, you, when we met, stated you wished Mr. Kaunow had come forward publicly, or I'm sorry, privately, to you with his offer for East Tower. And you seemed a little bit irked that he chose to do it publicly. And Mr. Kirschner, in your email that the AT shared, you implied that the mayor should have come to you over lunch with his plan.
No, I did not. I said that the mayor and I had lunch earlier that day and had an opportunity to speak with me if he wished.
I think the implication is that you wish he would have spoke to you then. As a member of the public, it bothers me that the two of you appear to be open to suggestions that are made on a golf course or over a restaurant table, but it seems you're not open to offers that are made at a public meeting with all involved parties present. I appreciate the mayor's attempts at transparency and keeping this before the public. I applaud him for that. I think that's how all government's supposed to work.
Just to be clear about the meeting on Thursday, it was agreed by the mayor and by us that there would be no calls to action, that it would be a fact-finding mission only, and that no one from the public, other than the people that did the studies and elected officials, were allowed to speak. That's where the concern was regarding this call to action. I don't care whether it's public or private. I think a lot of times, as folks can understand, a lot of things get resolved by having conversations prior to meetings so that everybody understands what page they're on. To be surprised by a proposal in public is difficult to react to.
And, in the process of fact-finding, doing our homework to speak, I think what Mr. Kershaw, I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, but referring to is, that's how we can get to the point of having better discussion here, but he does not mean amongst ourselves.
No.
He means as whomever we're talking to, whether it's the writers of the studies or the other groups and agencies, other elected officials that we work with, aside from members of this board, because that's why we have this work session, so this is the first chance we've had to discuss this outside of what we're all reading in the paper and so forth, and what we heard and participated that night. We got a couple minutes left before we would need to wrap this up.
I'd like to make a comment. We have a complete right to deal one-on-one with one of the commissioners and a member of city council. We have the complete right to meet one-on-one with the mayor and us. What we can't do is the three commissioners, we cannot meet.
Or two.
But-
Or any
Or
two of us.
any two of us can't meet. But to go one-on-one with any one of the city council members, matter of fact, I think we could meet with a number of them, as long as it's not the majority.
Mr.
We
It
can meet,
has to be
okay,
less than three.
okay, so we can meet with two of them individually, or we can meet with the mayor. And that's where we discuss these things somewhat behind the scenes before we bring it out in public. We have a complete authority to do that. What we don't have is for the two commissioners to meet, and we haven't.
I have no problem with
Mr.
you having lunch
Mr.
together.
Mr. Roberts.
Yes, Jim Roberts, Tiffin City Council from First Ward. First of all, I appreciate very much the opportunity we had last Thursday to get together. And it was kind of a rocky start, but I know I had the pleasure of working with Judge Rep, with Fostoria City Council and Tiffin City Council when we combined the two courts. And I think one reason that mainly worked there is we left our personalities at the door. And we had one goal in mind, saving people money and getting an efficient court system. And I would hope that this wouldn't get buried now, and I would love to see another meeting. I like the round table. The horseshoe is all right, but I like a round table. That way no one is sitting at the head of the table. No one is sitting facing the audience. Everybody's facing each other, and I think a round table is a good idea. But like I think Commissioner Zoller said, when they start bannering and talking $1 million some dollars here and $1 million some dollars there, I can't comprehend that. I'm just a poor old country boy that's on fixed income, and that's a lot of money, and I just don't know how to even compare it. And I think the average taxpayer in this county does the same thing, and we better have some good justification if we're gonna spend extra money. But I hope, that's the only reason I came, and I have another meeting at 10. I just hope that we can get together. We can't, we've got time, get together. We haven't even discussed it, City Council, Councilman Leopard's here. We have our meeting tonight because it was postponed from last night because of President's Day. So I'm sure that'll be a topic of discussion this evening. But I would extend to you the invitation or the request to please, let's get together again and talk about it. And I think it'll be a different meeting, and we'll have maybe some different results, different ideas, a lot of things to hash out, a lot of questions to ask. And we can do a lot of good things, I think, really. But I was disappointed in Thursday night's meeting. And it had nothing to do with the moderator or the hosts or anything else. Colonel?
Councilman, whatever we do, first of all, thank you for your comments. Whatever we do will be done with a spirit of cooperation with the city. We want the city to be part of a joint justice center. I mean, that has been our desire from day one. And I have to say that I think Aaron is doing an excellent job for the city. I agree with him on 98% of items. I saw him Saturday night and we talked a little bit. So he is a wonderful young man. He's doing an outstanding job for the city, in my humble opinion. Unfortunately, we don't agree on this issue, and that's okay. That's okay. People don't always agree. So just to make certain that we understand that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Goshi had his hand up prior to us hitting the 10 o'clock hour, so I'm going to take him as the last bit of comments for this work session, and then we're going to call our regular
Hold off, if
meetings.
you want me to.
No, if you've got something you'd like to say now before, otherwise you have to wait till the end of the next meeting for citizens' comments.
I studied the estimates for the joint center at the Twin Tower, or at the tower, and then the original one, which was for the courthouse site. And the courthouse site ended up, based on the numbers they give us, running $235.96 a square foot. But the site for the new building the site down at the East Tower was only listed at $210 per square foot. Now, if you take the difference in that, and you figure it out, the cost of the East Tower site, if you charge the same price as at the courthouse site, would be $830,000 to $720 more, based on the same cost for the new building. And if you figured that thing on the courthouse site, it would be a savings of about $937,000 if you use the $210 for the courthouse site. Somewhere along the line, it don't add up. I mean, $800,000 is not a pittance, not in my book anyhow. I mean, I might be close to that, what the heck, you know, but anyhow, in the process of things, there's a big difference in there. If you're gonna compare one site to the other site, compare the site fairly. Compare the new part to this new part. And if you do that, these numbers here don't lie.
Thank you. At this time, we are going to officially call to order our regular work session for the Seneca County Board of Commissioners for Tuesday, February 17th. Please stand for the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call on Commissioner Zoller to lead us in our prayer.
Dear Lord, please help us as we ponder these very, very important decisions that we have to make for the residents of Seneca County. Give us the wisdom to be fair and impartial, and the wisdom to make the right decisions as we move forward. In your name.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Stacy?
Here.
Commissioner Zoller?
Here.
Commissioner Kirschner?
Here.
Okay, we'll have the signing of the journal, and I will accept a motion to approve the DVD recording from our previous board session, which was on Tuesday, February 3rd, and the special meeting from Thursday, February 12th, and the written index of those meetings.
I make a motion, we approve it as outlined.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Thank you. All right, any adjustments to the agenda? I've got two things I'd like to list under old business. I think it was, the one was on the latest agenda on our site, but maybe not the one we sent out. And that would be Justice Center, and then also State Route 53. It's more than just 53, but I'll leave it at that for purposes of an agenda item under old business. Either Commissioner Kirschner or Zoller have anything else to add to the agenda? Any adjustments?
No.
Stacy? Nicole? Let's begin with the old business then, and that would be that of the Justice Center. We set a date by resolution at some meetings in January, last month, to make a decision, and then amended that resolution to do that, make that decision today about a Justice Center and the location of that Justice Center. So I like to continue discussions. I'm not, if we're there, we're there, but to have those discussions. And I'll start this with something I said the other day. We got to the point of looking at addressing needs. Juvenile probate court being listed as a #1 concern the very first time I was ever a candidate for elected position in the county. And it probably long before that, it's been the problem and need to do something better for those facilities. So that was the start. Space studies had been done. I don't know how many space studies have been done, but there's been space studies done. There's been, as we mentioned in the work session, there's been a design done for building a Justice Center. Somewhere along the lines, then the city recognized, and they had concerns with, I believe, safety, security being a #1, and I think space probably part of that for their municipal court. And then the idea of a joint justice center came to play. I think by the second round of my efforts of running for elected office, then that was of interest. And so the very productive discussions about a joint justice center came to fruition. That's been the path. Now there's been studies done on a joint justice center, what could be done, and then, enter another study with the location, more detail about a prominent location. That's an historic part of Seneca County, specifically of the downtown area with the East Tower. So that's where it's led us to be, but ultimately, we're elected to make decisions, and we have to do that. We have to make the decision, we gather the information, and move to getting to the solutions, so that we can do things. And again, we're still now, how many years later, with what is less than a desirable space for our juvenile probate court. So I'm gonna open it up with that, and go with what either one of you have anything else you wanna add as we continue discussing this
Well, I
topic.
would like to reiterate some of that. The reason that I left the private sector and ran for Seneca County Commissioner was to make decisions that could move this community forward, to be a good steward of taxpayers' money, and again, make decisions. I realize that not all decisions are embraced by everybody, but I can tell you that I have the ability to make a decision, and the decision is what I always feel is in the best interest of the majority of the people. And that's the very reason I took this job, and I left my cushy private sector to come into a public sector, was to not kick the can down the road. I think that even though I applaud the previous commissioners, I think that they procrastinated much too long on making a decision whether to save the old courthouse or not. And I have said many times that in my career, I'm a bridge builder, not a fence maker. And I see the division that we have within this community, and I don't like it. And we need to get it behind us so that we can continue to build the bridges and have a level of cooperation. I am extremely hopeful that as we move forward, and if a decision is made today, that we can have open dialogue with the city as to what we decide to where we're gonna go, and we can have open dialogue with the city, that we can truly have a joint justice center so that the residents of not only Tiffin, Ohio and Seneca County can reap the benefits of the decisions we make long-term. I take that responsibility very strong, and I realize that it may not be acceptable to all, but I can tell you my heart is in it, and I would vote what I think is right.
Okay, having said that, Madam President, I have a motion that I would like to make. It'll get formalized as the day goes on here, I'm sure, but I'll start out by saying that we as commissioners have a statutory duty providing the citizens of Seneca County with a safe and accessible courthouse. And that we have studied options and studies about a possible location and have had those presented to us, and we've deliberated in board session, and we're attempting to make the best and the most economical location to suit the needs. So I would therefore move that this Board of Commissioners be, and it does, hereby declare their intent to move forward with the Justice Center project at the site of the courthouse square. And that we move forward reviewing proposed building plans with enough flexibility to include not only the Tiffin Municipal Court, but also the common police courts if the Tiffin desires to come along with this project. We do indeed invite Tiffin to participate in this project, and the emphasis is the project will move forward with or without participation. And I would also ask that the clerk of the board authorize and instruct to certify the copies of this resolution to all entities deemed appropriate.
If that's a motion, I would second that motion.
It is indeed a motion, yes.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, with all that was stated with that motion, to have the Justice Center located on Courthouse Square.
That's correct.
Accurate summary, and brevity not to any discredit the
And-
other statements made.
Right, and
Let's
to
open
make-
this for discussion.
And to make the plans flexible enough to include Tiffin Municipal Courts, and to invite the city to participate in the Joint Justice Center.
Okay, discussion on the motion. I'll add, one thing is that in the last week, and I'm sure others have as well over time, it's not that we don't talk to each other as elected officials, to the other elected officials, but I took the time in the past week to go and meet with each of the 4 judges. And just ask them, prior to us having that joint meeting that we had last week, is there anything that, we're missing that I want to make sure I haven't overlooked? Bottom line, then, we need to provide the facilities for our county court system, but you're the individuals to the 3 of the judges that are providing those services for us. And this needs to be what's good for the courts. Appropriate space for staff and to conduct business, was comment from one. Having all the courts together from another. Security topped the list of one of the other judges. And then the statement, it's a once-in-a-time life opportunity to, if we put all 4 of the courts together. I think that spoke volume, and then when we look at our financial responsibility of doing what's best with the taxpayers' dollars, and I'll stand by my statement I made in the work session that I ultimately think it absolutely is the best way to go is to utilize our annex building for a juvenile probate facility that it was constructed for, and then to enhance on the cost savings and a justice center, one focal point for justice here in the county, and hopefully as a joint center, if the city would choose to come with us. I think this is the route to go. That's my opinion. Any other comments anyone wishes to make? We'll take our vote before we won't go to citizens at this point. We'll do that at the end.
Well, don't you want to?
I would like to have comments.
We have a
We have some of the
vote.
judges.
Yeah, but they didn't.
The elected officials, judges, would you like to come now? You want to wait till we vote on something, or?
And also, I'd like to hear from the sheriff too on this thought process.
Judge Steve Schuff, I've been a judge now had the opportunity to be a judge for 16 years. And ever since I became judge, inadequate courtroom facilities has been an issue. And we have worked with various boards of commissioners, the judges, to try to rectify those. And I applaud you for taking that action to rectify the inadequacies of the court facilities. 2 of the court facilities, out of the 3, are extremely inadequate. And while I don't always agree with Rob Weaver, the Advertiser Tribune editor, and I'm sure he doesn't always agree with what I do on the bench, his letter of, I think it was February 12th or 13th, letter from the editor was right on point as to stating that we should proceed with a building on the courthouse square. I'm not gonna, it's here for anyone who wants to see it, it's online, but I totally support the motion by Mr. Kershaw.
Comments from maybe the other judges
The other
or
judge
from the
would take
sheriff?
its point.
Judge
Well,
Crowley.
yeah, Mark Brepp, Tiffin Fostoria Municipal Court Judge, and I wanted to come and say a number of things. First of all, I really want to thank Holly for taking the time, because she did indeed talk to me, and I know that my brothers of the bench, that she took the time to talk to them as well, to find out some reaction with regard to all of us that had the opportunity to review the various studies and to look them over. And there were a number of concerns, and I understand that the city in many respects is kind of the stepchild in this partnership. We're a smaller stakeholder than the county is, but in the same respect, we are very busy. It's the busiest court in the county. Most people, if they're gonna have some contact with a court, it's gonna probably be the municipal court at some level, whether that be traffic. So it's very important, and unlike the county, we have our own probation department, we have our own clerk's office, and it's very important that the flow of individuals, of cases through the court be fairly seamless. When I looked at the East Tower study, I was somewhat concerned because, and I understand it's an initial layout, but you've got probation on one floor, you've got courts and chambers on another floor, we're commingled with other courts. Not that I don't like my brothers of the bench, that's not it at all. It's just that it does interrupt the flow. The study that's done on the courthouse green is fairly consistent. 9,000 square feet, more footage, than almost double the footage that we have now. All dedicated to our needs. No commingling. I've spoken at length with Judge Meyer about adult offenders and juvenile offenders. I'm very concerned about that as well. And I believe that the original plan addresses those concerns. I understand there's flexibility and there's a preliminary plan, that the East Tower is really, it's very initial, but I think that one thing that I wanted to say, we can all agree that the courthouse was probably one of the most controversial and traumatic events in our political life here in the city of Tiffin. It was not easy. And I applaud, and I do think that if we had made a decision and moved along with it, and another thing, I want to applaud my brothers of the bench because this is something we didn't do before, and I think that this is important. We need to be heard about what our opinion is. We're going to be the actual tenants. We're going to be the ones that are going to have to make our operation run. And I think it's important that we come forward and let you know how we feel about it.
Thank you.
Judge Cobley or Judge Meyer, do you decide to say?
I think Judge Meyer should go on that. You should save the old guy to the end.
Yielded to you, Judge Meyer.
Since I took office back in 2009, we have consistently said over June 4th that we'll consider any space that provides handicap accessibility and appropriate space for our staff and for our programs. The proposed resolution that's laid out provides for those things. Provides sufficient space for my staff and programs, provides handicap accessibility for the citizens of Seneca County. And that's been our criteria all along, and I guess since this proposal addresses the things that we've asked for, our court would support this proposal.
Judge Cobley.
The elder statesman now.
The problem has been here a long time. Over the years, I've supported various, old picture was in the paper when my hair was a different color, supporting renovation and restoration. I believe this is the right decision to make. From a security standpoint, which I've shared in the past, I think the people need to come to court, know that not only is it efficient, but I think it's secure. And I'm in favor of your decision. And it is your decision, by the way.
At this time.
I'd like to have some comments from the sheriff because you will also be a frequent user of the facility when it comes to security and so forth.
I didn't see him back there.
I like to see her back.
In church too, Bill?
Church also. While it wasn't my duty to look at the cost of the facility or the size of the courtrooms or the location, it was my responsibility, as you folks know, to provide security for that facility. I agree with what's already been said here today. We have an issue when I looked over the East Tower study, I saw a lot of major concerns. Thursday evening, I heard comments made that defendants will be in the custody of officers when they come into that building. That's not always the case. We have defendants that show up in municipal court, common pleas court, and juvenile court that I'm sure that are not in custody of law enforcement. I see concerns on the ground floor where we have a holding area for adults and juveniles. I look at that as an extension of the jail. I will not use that to house a juvenile. or to house one of my people in it. If it's used for a juvenile holding area, then you will not see my people coming through it with an adult. I have a duty to keep juveniles and adults in my facility out of sight and sound. And as I say, I will extend that to the Justice Center. I see problems in the common areas for both the juveniles and adults. The common elevators, the stairwells, the hallways, the waiting rooms, where there's always a possibility of something bad happening. It's our duty to protect our kids, no matter what they're there for. It's our job to protect them. I see that at a greater risk in the East Tower than I see at the Joint Justice Center on the courthouse square. Originally designed, the annex building was that for juvenile and probate court. Let's put it back to what it was designed for, built on the courthouse square. I will have less heartburn protecting that building than I will with the East Tower. Thank you.
This time we've heard from the elected officials that directly affiliated with the building of a justice center. Call the roll.
Commissioner Kirschner?
Yes.
Commissioner Zoller?
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you very much. Continue with the rest of our agenda. I added under old business the State Route 53. Wanted to update my fellow commissioners.
Can I say one more
Yes.
thing, Commissioner Stacy,
Yes.
and I'm sorry to interrupt, and this is a comment I think that I want to, especially as the junior partner holder here, I am hopeful that our partners with the city will look at this and not look at this as an affront, but as a constructive process moving forward. We will not have this opportunity to have a joint justice center again in the next 150 or 200 years. And I really think that having all the courts in one place just makes a lot of sense. So I would ask of you to please contact your brothers and sisters on the city council, speak with them, and let them know why, reach out to them so that hopefully this process doesn't end up becoming just a county process, but continues to be a joint process.
Judge, if I can make a comment, that is absolutely spot on to what we want to do. In addition, is, I think my fellow commissioners, we hear the historic preservationist, and I embrace them when we start looking at the design and the architectural design of the exterior of the building. And we're very cognizant of historic values of the old courthouse, and then we can incorporate a lot of those. So the two issues that I would like to, as a bridge builder, is yes, we absolutely want the four courts to be together, joint justice center, and I hear loud and clear the historic preservationist and how we can create a new building and still have some historic values to it. Extremely important to me.
Thank you.
We'll continue, unless we need a recess for any reason. Okay, we'll continue, will we?
Yes.
All right. As I said, the other item under old business was State Route 53. Just to update my fellow commissioners, it's also about updating, we had a meeting at SIDEC. Senator Burke had contacted David Zack the beginning of last week and was asking about an update of things with 53 and the discussion of a loop road. It's not really a loop, it's more of a bypass road of, as you come into Tiffin from the north, coming south on 53 and taking possibly the truck traffic off at Tiber Road, goes down a county road and a mile of a township road, I believe, connecting back out. So our traffic that wants to go west and or south via 224 and around, doesn't have to come through the city of Tiffin. So he was asking about an update of that. So we had a meeting together and we brought, David brought in the folks from ODOT District 2, and we had a lot of discussion about, and with Mark Zimmerman as well, the safety study that was done with State Route 53. So ODOT's going to go back, and they had all those various intersections and points that they recognized in that safety study, and they're going to try to look at programming them in based on they've got values or cost of doing various studies. Pull some of the higher dollar ones out and go after some other types of monies for them with their safety dollars and looking at that. So that's one part of this meeting it came to. They're gonna look at that and get some information back to those of us that were there. And then as we start talking about the other, Roxanne Burris, who is our new regional planning director, was there and 100% on board to take the charge of updating the old 2001 Seneca County Comprehensive Plan. And we think if that can get moving and we can get that plan updated, then we start to see where this bypass/loop road project can come in, and we can start moving on making that very viable. So we'll get some updates soon on maybe some of those safety things coming and timeframe of when that might happen for 53, and then also some other progress, which in itself is a safety improvement for 53 if we make that happen. So that's just an update on that meeting I went to last week.
Applaud your efforts. Sorry, go ahead.
You're right, well, it's good to know that ODOT is at least knows where Seneca County is.
That's right, they do, they found us.
Good.
But I certainly applaud that because the time is right to spur economic development and spur growth. And that area would only enhance the ability of SIDEC to recruit businesses that come into that area when you got a sufficient flow of traffic that's going north to south, east to west there.
All right. We have nothing else listed for old business, so we'll begin with new business and begin with the bill vouchers.
Okay, bill vouchers 16 to 20. I have an appropriation adjustment within the general fund, moving $2,398 from contract services to equipment. And that's on the jail side, and the road side, same amount, $2,398 from contract services to equipment. This is for their server, $4,796. I have a supplement to the permanent appropriations to the general fund for 2015. This is reappropriating $271,500 for the Tice property for the land acquisition we had entered into in 2014, and it did not, just rolling over to 2015, so we're just reappropriating it. A resolution authorizing an appropriation adjustment within the capital projects fund, 215, moving $50,000 from professional services to the CSB, $10,000 from contingencies to the RTA, total moved $60,000. I have a supplement to the permanent appropriations for the emergency energy improvement construction fund, 225 for 2015, putting $16,281 into contract services. I have a resolution establishing the County Road 30-2.31 Bridge Rehabilitation Fund, 216. I have a resolution rescinding the board's orders of February 3rd, 2015, volume 91, page 46, appropriation adjustment for the EMA Hazard Mitigation Fund. I have a resolution authorizing 2015 software support agreement with McDonald, Freeburg, Carr, and Dixon on behalf of the Seneca County Clerk of Courts. I have a resolution authorizing the release and settlement agreement between the Seneca County Commissioners and AT&T Corporation for the Centrex account. We will be getting the credit back of $72,321.84.
We finally got this resolved.
Finally got it resolved. We are asking for them to send us a check instead of a credit, because having $72,000 credit on the account would take us 20 months to, so we've asked for a check instead of a credit, just
Send
to
us a
keep,
cash.
yeah, just to keep our books in line. I'd hate not to make an AT&T payment for a year and kind of say, yeah, all of a sudden we're paying a lot for phone bills, so we've asked them to
I think
do
this
that.
is interesting, just to remind the general public that when we switched, we were gonna switch phone systems, and we went off the, you may want to explain it
Yeah,
better than what I can.
Our contract ran out for our Centrex contract with AT&T, and with little or no notice, had doubled our cost, more than doubled our cost for our fees. So we had to renegotiate, and obviously they wouldn't allow a credit until we signed an agreement with them. So,
They had us
And-
hostage.
they did.
And with the fact that we had reached out to them prior to that expiration of that
Yes.
contract, and they were between staff folks and changes or something, and, yeah, so
Yep.
it wasn't like, didn't cry.
Yeah, and looking at the cost, that they are giving us a fair cost in the new contract, but it was just frustrating with all the problems we've had with AT&T getting this going. It's been a year now since we've been trying to get that service.
Thank you. I know that's taken a tremendous amount of work on your behalf to get it done, but there was a lot of dollars sitting out there that we just had to bird dog it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your efforts there.
That's all the resolutions.
That's all the resolutions, yes.
Any, we have a motion to accept.
Make a motion that we accept the resolutions as discussed.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the resolutions. Any discussion, any other questions? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Kirschner?
Yes.
Commissioner Zoller?
Yes.
Commissioner Stacy?
Yes, all approved. Okay, this moves us to a opportunity for citizens' comments at this time. Are there any citizens who would like to make remarks? And if you will, please state your name so that it hits on our recording, unless you're gonna come up and visually be.
My name is Brenda Stoltz. I'm from Adams Township, and I find it kind of appropriate that after a year of absence from visiting with the county commissioners, I'm here today as you made a motion to place the new construction of a new part of the courthouse on the courthouse green. But what I really would like to say today is that I understand your issue of stewardship of the taxpayers' money, of which I am a taxpayer, but I also understand your stewardship issue of looking after your buildings. So since the courthouse is no longer there and now we have plans for a new one, I wish you the best. And with that said, I would like to, on behalf of the Ohio Local History Alliance Region 2, invite you to Ohio Statehood Day on Wednesday, March 4th, in the atrium of the Ohio State House.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further citizens' comments from anyone? Loretta?
Loretta Miller, Tiffin, Ohio. I started attending meetings here right before the old courthouse came down, and it was a sad, sad occasion. I would like to commend you on moving forward in a positive manner in creating a space that is handicap accessible and for ease of public and judicial use in the county. And I applaud you for not kicking the can down the road. It takes a lot of courage to make those kinds of decisions, and as a taxpayer, I appreciate your looking at the dollars. There was a discussion recently, somebody said, well, keeping the annex and redoing the East Tower, you know, just keep the annex, it'd only require one more security person. And I, as a former math person, I did the numbers and I thought, gee, security person, if you add in the salary, the PERS, health insurance, etc., roughly $50,000 a year. And over 75 years, that's $3.75 million. And it's these little, I shouldn't say little expenses, but it only sounds like, oh, one more security person. Over the length of occupancy of a building or buildings, it adds up. And as a taxpayer, I appreciate your being concerned about using our tax dollars wisely. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional citizens' comments? Right.
Hi, I'm Cindy Hunt Dunn, and I love this town, like most, I'm sure all of you. And I just wanted to say a few words. I wanted to say that, you know, I know the commissioners, and they have the best interest of Tiffin and the county at heart. And And I know that we all have all kinds of ideas on how to solve issues, and I think we have such an amazing community that other ideas come out in the process, just like Mr. Calnow, who came up with an idea for the East Tower, giving that forward. A good idea, trying to make that viable. He wouldn't have to do that. I know he's done many things for the community of Tiffin, as have the commissioners, and I know the mayor came out with an idea too, and we have the best mayor. So my point here is we've got such a great community, Tiffin, and what we can, what we do here and going forward. I just want to say, even though we may not always agree, right? We all can come together and work together to build this community better. My hope would have been that there was some stone unturned, something that could find a solution that would work for every single person, and that we would all I see you laughing there in the audience. I know, maybe I'm pie in the sky here, but I kept thinking there's got to be something that would make it so that we all, but like a family, we all have opinions, but if we stick together and do its best. So a little long-winded there, but we've got such a great place, and if there is any stone unturned, that would be great. I know the commissioners would probably listen to anything, but I know I appreciate all the hard work that you all do, and everyone in the community, and I'm thankful for all those ideas. So thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Anyone else?
Can you put up with me one more time?
Sure.
Del Margoshi, I will give you guys credit. You've done what was right for Seneca County, not just for Tiffin. And believe it or not, there's little towns around Seneca County, there's Fostoria, and it's county, not strictly citizen. And I think you guys are doing what's the best for the county, probably, and Tiffin. I live in Tiffin, I'm a Seneca County citizen too, but I think you've done what was right for Seneca County. Thank you.
Anyone else for citizens' comments? Okay. Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded.
A motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned at 10:41.